Hello to everybody, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series, Round 5 here from the beautiful Suzuka International Circuit. This is going to be 60 minutes of dramatic racing in, as you can rightly see on the screen, very damp conditions. To talk you through all of the action will be myself, Paul Jeffrey, and I'm delighted to welcome alongside me in the commentary box Mr. Lewis McGlade.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I've done the Asia Sprint Series, but it's fantastic to be back. And of course, at one of the most legendary circuits in all of motorsport, Suzuka is a staple of modern and historic motorsport and always provides a great show.
It really does. It's an absolutely incredible old school racetrack. Very little runoff, massively challenging corners for our drivers to navigate their way around. And Lewis, as we can see, just to add to that difficult challenge, we've got a little bit of the wet stuff falling from the sky as well.
It's one of those circuits that goes hand in hand with the wet stuff. You know, you plaster circuits like Spa among that, but Suzuka is hand in hand with rain. It just works. It's a brilliant racetrack at the best times, but can be a little tricky to pass. You throw some lack of grip down onto the racetrack like what we're going to have today. I think we are in for an absolute barnstormer race, as we had in quali as well, so we'll get to that in a moment. But a little bit wet in qualifying made you're testing your drivers.
You really are, and this is an opportunity for some of our drivers to really lay down a stake for next season. It's the final race of the year. Of course, the championship already decided in favour of Dayne Warren, who has won every single race this season. Dayne will not be taking part here today, so maybe a chance for those at the front of the field to get a final win of the year. And Dika Ramamalana is second in the championship standings. He has 46 points to his name, so only 15 points ahead of Dylan Tan for Legion of Racers. In third position, Fadli Rakhmat for JMX Phantom in the big Bentley Continental GT3 is fourth in the championship standings. And Andrew Lawrenson, who had a very good qualification, is fifth position, 24 points, but has a very good opportunity to move himself up the final standings. Sky Lee in sixth place, just ahead of Nabik Aslan with 18 points in P7. Ryan Houlihan in eighth position, again 18 points, so an opportunity for Houlihan to move up the order. Ryan Dong in ninth position, just a single point behind, and Avel Bahar, another JMX Phantom driver, but this time in the McLaren 720S GT3, rounds out the top 10 point scorers. As we run down the next 10 into 20th position, we can see many drivers separated by just a small handful of points, Lewis. So for the final race of the season, we don't have a championship to decide, but we most certainly have opportunity for movement in the standings.
Yeah, particularly up towards the front. And Dika Ramamalana, whilst it looks very good in second position, there's 25 points up for grabs today. That can switch around very quickly, along with plenty of these drivers up and down the grid. The championship certainly isn't settled yet for everyone second and below. It's wide open if someone gets a good round. And it's kind of one of those things that we expect from the final round of a season, is those that have had an on-off championship from start to finish, this is the time when they turn it around.
Absolutely. So let's have a quick look then at our entry list. As we mentioned at the top of the show, our champion Dayne Warren is absent from today, but we've still got plenty of big names. Sergei Mironenko for Laundry House in the Ferrari 488 GT3. Number 7 there on your list is always a driver where a bit of drama runs around him. Daniel Hunter, a new name to the championship for Odyssey Racing Esports in a Porsche. For number 3 is another one to keep our eye out for. Isaac Norman, another Odyssey Racing Esports car, this time splitting brands for the Lamborghini Huracan GT3, and Melvin Moe for Legion of Racers in the Mercedes AMG. All names that often perform great performances in the race. Yuri Shirakawa, in the Success Esports Bentley Continental. Dayne Warren, who will be missing from the race today, and Fadli Rakhmat for JMX Phantom. He's another driver, fourth in the championship standings on 30 points. Needs a big day today to try and get himself into that top 3 positions. Nigel Chua, Legion of Racers Mercedes, the number 34 driver, another one that needs a good few points into his name today in order to move himself up the running order. And we've got 41 drivers lining up on the grid today. Plenty of big names. Terry Rayton for Laundry House and Mercedes AMG. We've got another driver, another team that have been very, very popular with our fans over the course of this season. Mitch Hobbs for BDE Motorsports and the Aston Martin as well. The number 97 Hobbs will be a driver to keep an eye on, as well as he's just trying to find those points at the last race of the season. And it's not to be underestimated, is it, that Lewis, that this is the last race of the season. This is the last chance these drivers have got to get some points on the board and make a bit of inroads in their own championship. And there's some great drivers all the way down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the last time for them to actually go out and have a bit of fun as well for good measure, and that's kind of what this is all about for some of these teams and drivers. They just come along and they want to have an enjoyable race. You saw in there Dylan Tan. Obviously, you've got people like Andika Ramamorlana down there. The entry list is one of those ones that for here is that it gets better the further you go along. It's not saying anything bad about any of the ones at the start of that entry list, in the lower numbers, but those that are on those final couple of pages, they are genuinely big names in the whole world of sim racing. They are talented drivers that know how to fight, know how to put everything on the line when they need to, and that's exactly what you need around a wet track that is as tricky as Suzuka.
Oh, absolutely. Again, like you say, tricky and wet. This is an opportunity for those drivers that maybe have had a bit more of a difficult time of it up to this point, or feel that they don't have the points that they deserve at this stage in the race. Anything can happen in these kind of conditions. We'll look at the qualification results in a few moments' time, but qual is one thing, staying out of trouble, making no mistakes, not getting wrapped up in somebody else's issue. These are all key things, aren't they, when you've got limited visibility and such a difficult and long lap like we've got at Suzuka.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I've done a race in the wet at Suzuka. It is not an easy task. You want to be starting up in the top 5, but qualifying's already settled. You don't have a choice to change that now. It's kind of one of those ones, we had a little bit of a chat about this before over plenty of endurance races and sprint race. This actually works out just as much, especially on a day like today, is that there are 2 locations you want to start on the grid, which is either at the front, obviously, or at the back. Because at least at the back you can do something about the potential carnage ahead. If you're in the middle of the pack around a circuit like this, that's when you're in the danger zone. Think of going 2, 3, 4 wide running through the S's section, and trust me, we are going to see some 3 wide running through there. That's where the danger really, really happens. If you're at the front, if you're at the back, you have the chance to make your own destiny and stay out of it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And let's do a little bit of fun gambling. By the way, ladies and gentlemen at home, gambling is not a big and clever thing to do, so we do not recommend it. But if you were a betting man, Mr. Lewis McGlade, how many cars do you expect to go and see some gravel and potentially even tyres by the time we cross the start-finish line for the first time?
Ooh, I'm going to go with 4. I think 4 will have been off. I think so. I think we've got a good grid here, a quality grid of very decent drivers from front to back. I think the number might be a bit lower than expectation, because every time I'm always like, it's going to be 10 or 15, and no one goes off. I think 4 is a good number to go with.
Excellent. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Lewis McGlade predicts we have 4 drivers in trouble over the opening lap, and we're only a few moments away from said opening lap, so we will find out in a very short while. Now, if you're just joining this broadcast, thank you very much for being a part of the GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series. This is, sadly, the final round of what has been an incredible 5-round championship, and Lewis and I have brought the action to you on a number of occasions this season, and it's fair to say, Lewis, I think, isn't it, that the quality of this field, of these drivers, that maybe some people in Europe, there are lesser known names, has been just as good, if not better, than some of the races we've seen in the European series.
It's kind of one of those examples that you don't need the greatest drivers from front to back. Now, Dayne Warren has come along and dominated, as, to be honest, we kind of predicted at round 1. Dayne Warren is a quality driver, a part of one of the biggest outfits over the entirety of sim racing, whether it's here or elsewhere. And so for these other drivers, it's time for them to put their name up against that. And without any Dayne Warren here, now is their time to make their name.
There is indeed. So Andrew Lawrenson has struck first for pole position in the Porsche 911. Alongside Lawrenson is Dylan Tanky Long in the Ferrari. Good qualification there from Tanky Long, looking to get a good result. Jake Baldwin for an Aston Martin is third on the grid. Alongside him, is that man, Andika Ramamalana. Second in the championship, a chance of taking his second consecutive series title has now passed, but he'll be looking to secure second overall in the overall championship standings. Terry Rayton is in fifth position on the number 85 Mercedes for Laundry House that you see on the left hand side of your screen. Nigel Chua alongside him in the second Mercedes, sixth position, third row of the grid. A new name in the championship lines up in seventh position, and that is Massoum in the Ferrari number 488 appropriately for that car. Filippa Bakida, a driver that we have seen at the front of the field many times, but there's always something that takes a good result out of her grasp. Let's see if she can do wonders again today for the final race of the season. And on the fifth row of the grid is Wong in ninth position and Fadli Rakhmat in P10. Remember, Rachmat, fourth in the championship, needs a big result. Got a lot of work ahead of him to move forward from 10th position. Long Lee in P11 for the number 969 Mercedes, alongside a beautiful AMR V8 Vantage Aston Martin. That is the number 72 of Takuma in 12th position. Another new name to the championship, another driver very much looking to make an impact today. Ryan Houlihan is in 13th position, another Laundry House car, this time rocking the McLaren 720S GT3. Maybe a little bit disappointed with P13, will certainly be looking to move forward as the race progresses. Asaki is alongside him in the first of the Honda NSX GT3s in P14th, with Luis Moreno in 15th position in another beautiful Japanese machine, the Lexus RCF GT3. Hobbs in 16th position is just ahead of P17th, and that is Nabel in a McLaren 720S, the number 29 machine that you see on the left hand side of your screen now. And keeping him company in 18th position is Yet Lam Law in the BMW. BMW having a very difficult outing so far here at Suzuka. Taruna in 19th position, a big Bentley Continental will struggle in these wet conditions, I'm sure. And Madison rounds out the top 20 in the number 60 Honda NSX GT3.
Yeah, but the grid is certainly not done now. All the way down to 41st position. This really is the danger zone at this part of the grid. Left-hand side of your screen, you've got Ho. Right-hand side of your screen, a little bit of a poor qualifying from Lei, who is up there trying to get inside the top 5 in the championship. Just P22 on the grid, with wrong there on the left-hand side in that Lexus. Mercedes looking like they might be doing quite well today, up inside the top 6, but this one a little bit further down, with Mo Banerjee in 25th position, with Shirakawa rounding out the top 26. Kairadun and Pratama in 27th and 28th, left and right hand side of your screen, and right hand side being that Audi. Love seeing a good Audi on the grid, but unfortunately not high. Another one behind that in the hands of Shaquille and Clapano, rounding out the top 30. Still 11 more cars on this grid, with Min Wong and Sanjuto, and then Sudakar in 33rd position. Sugawara down in 34th, and then another one of the Leis, that one down in 35th position, with Morinenko, a driver who's done fairly well at various points across the championship, but unfortunately today going to have to start right the way down the back as the rain comes down more and more. There on the right hand side of your screen, the Laundry House NSX in 36th position. Norman in 37th position, with Yan Zi in 38th. Siberis and Hunter round out the top 40, and the final car on our grid, the Porsche on the right hand side for one of the GPX cars, that one is Chen, starting from the very, very last place on the grid in that Porsche.
A fantastic, spectacular, glorious, call it what you will, lineup of cars. That is 40 machines about to do a battle here at Suzuka. And Lewis, put yourself in the shoes of some of these drivers that are making their debut in this championship. They're racing against a very talented field that we've already spoken about, a field that has got 4 races worth of experience. They're at one of the toughest tracks anywhere in the world, and it's raining. What do? Do you take it cautiously in his opening laps, or, hey, for the last race, I'm a one-off, let's go make a name for ourselves?
I mean, it depends on your level of experience. It's kind of one of those, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm going to copy Ayrton Senna from 1993 at Donington Park and fly up the grid. But in this kind of conditions, you want to drive within yourself. You don't want to push it any further than you can. And i.e., I mean driving at 95%, because people guaranteed will fall off today, and plenty of them, and you want to be there to pick up the pieces. If you're one of those ones falling off, well, there's no pieces for you to pick up because you are the pieces being picked up, and that's exactly what you need to avoid on a day like this. It is a very difficult track in very, very difficult conditions, and we're going to talk about this quite a few times across the day. I think strategy is going to be critical to get up the order, and to be fair, in conditions like this, I'd actually want to pit as early in that pit window as possible at the midway point of the race.
Interesting deviation from what we've seen so far, and the man with the best view of the racetrack ahead of him is that man Andrew Lawrenson in pole position. Interesting to see there, Lewis, rocking the virtual reality headset, so that's another interesting dynamic for him as well.
It's kind of one of those ones. Got some seatbelts on as well, so very, very comfortable and strapped in. We've spoken about this at length, obviously when we did the Spa 24, and obviously at various other times, about using VR versus triple screens versus just a single monitor. Now, VR is really, really good for immersing you in it. However, it can be a bit weighty and lethargic over an endurance race. We're only racing for an hour today, and so if you're going to go out there and go and have a bit of fun, the question would be, why not? And in wet weather like this, I mean, it's just that extra level of immersion to bury you into the race. It might actually be a bit of a healthy advantage.
Absolutely, and it's one thing that we know about the Laundry House team. They enjoy having fun on the racetrack, an incredibly serious team, but at the same time always game for a bit of a laugh and to enjoy what they do, and I'm sure Lawrenson and co will be very pleased with that pole position, and a couple of cars actually embedded well inside the top 10, 15, 20 positions, so could be a big day for Laundry House in terms of points. And with Dayne Warren, the man that won round 1, round 2, round 3 and round 4, one thing is for sure today, Lewis, we're going to have a new winner in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just which one it'll be. They're all about to go side by side and approach the Casio Triangle. The final race of the series is about to begin, and you want to be the driver that wins that final race. If I'm picking anyone from this top lot, I'm actually going for P4, Andika Ramamolana. I know that might be a little bit left field, but obviously very talented driver, a champion, a multiple race winner elsewhere in sim racing, as well as here. I think he's going to be taking top honours today.
Yeah, Ramamolana's had a bit of a difficult time of it in the last few races, so this is a great opportunity to sign off from the 2021 season in style. And now, here we go, the cars are rounded on the formation lap for the start of, for the very last time, the GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series. Andrew Lawrenson sets the pace on the run to the start-finish line. They're checking the lights on the gantry ahead. The season is about to come to a conclusion with a final round here from the Suzuka International Circuit. Lawrenson in pole position, Key Long in second place. Can Lawrenson get a good start slowly to the line? They're about to go green, and we are go in the GT World Challenge Asia Esports Sprint Series, heading down into T1 at Suzuka. Lawrenson gets a great start from pole position, retains that race lead. Long stays in second position around the outside. Andika Ramamolana, a couple of cars facing the wrong way, contact in the middle of the pack. There's no sides, there's no grip, and cars have come together early doors in the first few corners.
Yeah, and it was Banerjee who's been rotated as well with a couple of others. I think that's already my foregone, as there's more crashes entering the S's section at the focus of the front of the grid. It is moving up into third position for Andika Ramamolana, getting past Jake Baldwin up into the podium spot. And now for that battle for second position in the championship, his direct rival is directly ahead of him. And so it is very much target acquired for Andika Ramamolana.
Fantastic stuff. We're looking at Ryan Houlihan now dropping down the running order in the Laundry House McLaren as well. Houlihan in the middle of the fight. Meanwhile, the Laundry House Porsche in the race lead. A Ferrari in second. A Ferrari in third position. They've got the best view of the racetrack. This car, the 13th place, number 999, trying to find a little bit of clear air, trying to see what is ahead of him. And then ahead of him is King Long Lee in 12th position. So Long Lee is the man under pressure at this moment, and Houlihan trying to find grip where there is no grip. And despite a bit of dramas on the opening few corners, things are starting to settle down now amongst the field. Everybody's jostling for position. Philippa Bakina having a great start up there in 7th as well. So there are a few winners and a few losers, as is always the case in these things in the opening laps. But now it's battle on. 58 minutes to go.
Yeah, absolutely superb. Again, the way this race starts is in immense difficulty, but at the moment it does seem like Dylan Tan is going to try and get past Lawrenson, maybe to the outside. No way to make that one stick, but maybe just trying to force a mistake out of the Laundry House driver, and that could be the only real way to pass here. But as we head on to the start-finish straight, I think this Ferrari should be able to at least take a look down into turn one. It's just whether you're brave enough to do it in the hardest conditions you could possibly ask for.
Fantastic stuff, Dylan Tan, very much on the move now. The car looks much more comfortable than the Porsche. It's chasing round the outside into T1. He's going to run out of space very quickly indeed. He recognises that fight, gets a little bit of a switch on as well, but does well to hold the car, does Dylan Tan. That has opened the eyes of Andika Ramanathan behind, so Milano will be thinking, this is what I need to see. Let these two squabble, just hold station, keep it nice and clean, understand where you are in comparison to your rivals. But one thing is for sure, Andrew Lawrenson is definitely the least comfortable of this leading gaggle of cars in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see between Dylan Tan, Keylong, whether he might assist his teammate here. Of course, those two battling for second in the championship, but they are teammates for each of the races, and Dika Ramanathan sat on his rear end. At least he doesn't have pressure on his shoulders. It's more just about the focus ahead, trying to get past the Porsche. Speaking of Laundry House, by the way, I think that might have been Chuao losing a position, Rayton losing position to Chuao as diving down the inside into the hairpin. There's a lot of side-by-side here in the mid-pack as Masoon's going around the outside. Potentially might make that one stick on Fadli Rakhmat. I think he does. Superb stuff.
Fantastic racing further down the lower reaches of the top 10 as the Bentley gets very out of shape off of the racing line. Fadli Rakhmat struggling a little bit at this stage in the proceedings. Been overtaken once, might be overtaken again. Now he's to the inside. He'll do well to keep the car on the straight and narrow. That is the McLaren going all the way around, the long way around, but Rakhmat has the line covered, has the optimal run down the next section of racetrack. And exactly in these conditions, isn't it, Lewis, that one small mistake, lose that bit of momentum, get yourself out of position, and you've got a whole bunch of cars squabbling over the piece of track that you want to be on.
Yeah, look at Longley then. Oh, that's going to be wide there from Takuma, and then back to the inside before we get to the Casio triangle. Longley goes through Houlihan, also potentially through, diving it to the inside was the Lexus, trying to make a move, stick with Moreno, but still Longley and Houlihan both get past right there, and Takuma just getting told in my ear that it was hit round that by Moreno, so there was contact at the chicane. And so it's just how it goes. If you're trying to back out of it, trying to get out of line, yeah, you're likely to get tapped and spun. It's only a light tap in these conditions and you're round.
Going further up the running order, Andika Ramanathan falling away from the two race leaders now. So our current championship second position driver for Legion of Racers, the number 889 machine that you're looking at now, is struggling for pace at this moment in time. That's giving Baldwin a little bit of hope, as well as we're looking at Banerjee now, the number 86 car in 33rd position. Got everybody and his mother trying to find a way past. Next in line is the Lamborghini of Isaac Norman in 34th, trying to find a way past the Honda. The Lamborghini is an evil handling beast in these conditions, so Norman trying to fight the car, the track, the conditions, and his rival as well. And Banerjee at this moment in time just about holding on for that position. Meanwhile, let's look at Jake Baldwin again. That is Jake, not James, don't get confused. Very similar name, very different drivers, and Jake Baldwin making a debut in this championship, having a great performance so far. 4th position, but very much fancying his chances against our 2020 champion, Andika Ramanathan.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eye on Baldwin. He's got a little bit of experience on ACC. Actually did take part in the previous race of the championship, but sat there in 4th, looking for a podium. And I don't know about you, Paul, I think he's looking, of this top 4, at least from when we jump onto it, the most comfortable. Because if you compare it, Lawrenson has had issues over the first couple of laps. Dylan Tan has obviously had a couple of snaps looking back at turn 1. And Andika Ramanathan has not been able to keep up with Dylan Tan. Meanwhile, Jake Baldwin is just sat there, not overdriving it right now, is driving well within himself, and to be fair, looks very comfortable indeed.
Yeah, when we saw him on the picture-in-picture, he did look very relaxed behind the wheel. So Baldwin, very much just keeping a watching brief, I think, at this stage in the race. And that's an intelligent strategy, isn't it, Lewis? Just to keep your eye on what your rivals are doing. You're comfortable at this moment in time, at least. You're not under pressure, particularly from behind. So just see how things unfold. Philippa Bikina, by the way, 7th position after a good start and a good opening few laps of the race. She's doing good work in P7, a little bit behind Nigel Chua in the top 6 fight ahead, but still holding on in that McLaren. And actually a little bit of breathing space between yourself and the car in front is not a bad thing in these conditions. It lets you be able to see a little bit clearer through the front windshield and place your car where you need it to be, and just everything's a bit more under control, isn't it, when you've got some room between the two of you.
Yeah, unless you're a lot quicker than the car ahead, i.e. to the point where you are going to make a move at some point. If you know that car ahead's running roughly the same speed as you and you're not going to be able to pass, to be fair, giving yourself a second, maybe 2 seconds to the car ahead is actually, like you say, is actually, to be honest, quite a good thing, because you want that clear space, you want that vision. Whilst you're not close enough, if they're going to make a mistake, realistically, if they make a mistake in these kind of conditions, they're going off for much longer than 2 seconds. So you'll be able to come through. It's wise to give yourself the room. I'm not saying that that's what Philippa Bikina's done intentionally, but it just so happens to be the way it's worked out. As we'll take another look at the race start, and you'll see this danger zone play its course down into turn 1 and how crazy it is.
Yeah, I mean, it looks quite clear in these conditions, but there's so little visibility. The Honda catches the back of the NSX, checks him up, and then that brings 2 or 3 more cars into play. And Lewis, exactly what we said at the start of the broadcast, isn't it? That you're in that danger zone. You've got your own race to worry about, other drivers as well, and just one small mistake, one little bit of contact, it's a chain reaction, isn't it? And then you've got 3, 4, 5 different cars involved in your accident, and before you know it, that's day over before it's even really begun.
Well, when you're getting in contact like that, you're in the mid-pack. You've got cars ahead of you, cars behind, cars left, cars right. It means that if you're seeing an incident ahead of you, you can't actually do anything about it. You're just going to be a part of it, because if you try and move left or try and move right, you're going to hit check the cars to either side. If you slow down too much, you're going to get smashed by the car behind. And so regardless as to what you do, you're going to be involved in that incident. That's why starting in the mid-pack is so dangerous, and why we say sometimes starting at the front or starting at the back are viable options. Because if you start at the back, whilst yes, you have a lot of cars to pass, when it comes to those kind of incidents, at least you've got no one behind you, so you can just back out of things and go through it at your own speed. Regardless, that in the mid-pack is about as chaotic as we were expecting at the start of this race. It's just so difficult to run side by side down into the first couple of corners here at Suzuka, and so that's the best of times, let alone in wet weather conditions with a 41 car grid.
Indeed. Now here's a nice little fight. A couple of Hondas racing just outside the top 15, 15th and 16th. Sean Madison on the attack. Hondas at a Honda-owned circuit in the rain in Japan always makes for a little bit of drama, and Madison will be very keen indeed to find his way past teammate Asaki in 15th position and get on the chase of the cars ahead. He seems to have the faster machine, does the white wing mirrored of these 2 cars, but can he find a way past? As we said, it is oh so difficult to overtake at Suzuka, and in these wet conditions doubly so. But Madison applying the pressure plentifully now on his teammate Asaki, trying to pressure his teammate into making a small mistake, leaving a door open. As we take a look now at a replay from the earlier stages of this race, and look at the Audi down the inside into the 130R. That's a very brave overtaking manoeuvre indeed. But we're coming down into the Casino Triangle now, very late on the brakes. Oh dear, completely misses his braking zone. Does well to only make contact with 1 car actually, Lewis, but that was a fundamental error.
Yeah, that is the literal example of from hero to zero in one fell swoop. Really nice stuff at 130R. Didn't even run wide making that move, but then yeah, Casio Triangle just got it all wrong. It's hard to do, because when you assume that you're taking less speed in, so you brake a little bit later whilst you're racing everyone else. The concertina effect, everyone else ahead of you is braking earlier. Yeah, it's never it's a recipe for disaster, let's be honest. Whilst we focus back on this battle of 15th and 16th, my focus is actually on the green Lamborghini a little bit behind of Sky Lay, who started from 22nd position, looking to go and grab a top 5 somehow in the championship. Currently runs 6th in the standings. Not the greatest qualifying or best start to the race, but either way, up inside the 17th position, up inside the top 20, starting 22nd, top 5 positions. It's not the worst start to the race. This is a car that you wouldn't necessarily rule out moving up the order. Knows how to score some points in this championship. He's got 20 already to his name.
Yeah, he does indeed, Skyler. Got a lot of work ahead of him. Not only is he going to make time up on those ahead, he's also got to find a way past as well. And one of the best opportunities for that one at this juncture would be the pit stop window that will be opening for 10 minutes at the halfway mark of the race. Just for those new to the championship, the pit stop window is 10 minutes. Drivers must come down pit lane, must put at least 1 litre of fuel in their car. They are not mandated to change tyres, but they must make that stop. It'll be interesting to see. Traditionally, we see drivers waiting to the very end of that 10-minute window to make their stop, but with these wet conditions and with traffic as bunched as it is here at Suzuka, it will be fascinating, I think, Lewis, to see if anybody elects to do something a little bit different, to see if they can leverage an opportunity against their rivals.
Yeah, I think some drivers will. Like I say, to be fair, if you're Lawrenson, etc., just stay out. Just keep doing what you're doing. If you're trying to make some progress, though, in conditions like this, we always speak of the undercut normally in dry anyway, but in the wet, if you're just getting into your own bit of clear air, it helps so much in the wet. And so I think we might see a few up inside the top 5. Oh, that was not very good from Javier Lai, right into the back of Mironenko and sending that Honda from Laundry House round into a spin on the exit of Spoon Curve. Just misjudged it slightly, and there is Mironenko just rejoining in 28th position, so has lost 5 from all of that, and now comes out just behind and is side by side with one of the Audis. So a little bit chaotic there, just unfortunate.
Yeah, shame for Mironenko entirely at the innocent parties. He runs wide now at 130R, so can he keep hold of that position? Is going to lose yet further coming down into the chicane. Mironenko on the inside, Suragawa on the outside, side by side. Mironenko gets a little bit too much curb. That slows the car down. There's no grip on the curbs in these wet conditions. And Sergei Mironenko is now 28th position, so that'll be frustrating, but there's plenty of racing ahead of us, so Mironenko still has the opportunity to have plenty of fun, and he's making his move immediately on the dive down into T1. A very difficult place to pass, not a big braking zone, but luckily for Mironenko, that is Suragawa is aware of what's happening, gives him the racing room, and the Honda is back in to 27th position. Next on the list is Nabiel in 25th.
Yeah, that was actually well judged from Mironenko. Just looked to the inside, but good stuff from Sugawara, who was watching the mirrors, maybe watching him a little bit too much, went a little bit wide at T1 and then very much opened the door for Mironenko to come through. But Mironenko is obviously pretty irritated by what happened a little while ago, and to be fair, kind of understandably so, being sent round, and so now back on with it, and we'll try and catch down with Javier Lai once again and try and close down that gap. At the moment, by the way, speaking of gaps at the front, I believe the top 4 is still very, very close, and Dylan Tan is once again, it's still as close as ever to the back of Lawrenson, but there has been no move made.
Here we go now. This is an overtaking manoeuvre from Yugo Osaki. Goes to the inside, given no room whatsoever. It does well to keep the car running and facing the right direction. Osaki now from the attacker to the defender. That is his teammate around the outside. He'd do well to let the other Honda go, which he does. Falls back in line, and Yugo Osaki was given no room whatsoever by Teruma in the number 20 Bentley Continental, and that was a little bit aggressive, shall we say the least, especially in these conditions. Not much love lost between those two drivers.
No, absolutely not. And speaking where love won't be lost either, we've got 2 drive-through penalties that have come through. Banerjee's also got one a little bit further down the order, and you can see they're in 24th position, a drive-through penalty to Ming Wong. So a couple of drive-throughs being dished out naturally, as we would expect from race control. And look at the power there of the Bentley, just pulling firm, running down into turn 1. That one was Taruna ahead of Madison, as they'll all come down to pit lane, being Min Wong straight into pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty. And that says to me that kind of expected that one and was ready for it at any point. This is back up the order just outside of the top 10 with Long Lee on the back of Wong.
Yeah, Longley doing a good drive so far. Not in the points paying positions at this moment in time, but very close indeed. Keeping a watching brief of Wong in 10th position. Let's have a look at Kin Longley riding on board the Wacko's Flip Table Racing number 969 Mercedes AMG. Plenty of curb that Mercedes is able to take even in these wet conditions, which will be beneficial for lap time and also overtaking opportunities as well. Traditionally, you want to stay away from painted lines in wet weather. There's less grip on there and it's very easy to fire the car off and into the scenery if you're a little bit too aggressive over the track limits, but it seems to be no such problem for this number 969 at this moment in time, and he's in a good position actually. He's not in the points, but he's very much in contention with all those ahead of him. That's a group that's kind of led by Terry Rayton in P5, so there are some opportunities for Longley as this race unfolds, and just behind there's your man Ryan Houlihan having another very, very solid opening stint. 12th position so far, and again a driver that has got designs on scoring some big points here in the final race of the season. Meanwhile, look at these two Hondas, Lewis, still tooth and nail fighting, and now they've caught up with that Lamborghini and one is past.
Yeah, Sky Leia actually caught up to the rear end of these and actually has got through, so up into 16th position in that Lamborghini. The two Hondas apparently were making a little bit of contact as Aston Martin of Ho nearly made contact with the rear end of Osaki. There was contact between Madison and Osaki, which is what allowed Sky Leia to come through, but Leia doesn't really have the pace to keep up at the moment with Madison, and this could be the best chance for Madison to start pulling away from this group, already building that gap more and more and more on the start-finish straight. Osaki back to the inside of the Lamborghini, diving it to the inside at turn one. There's contact between the two, and Sky Leia's going to be going wide. Maybe he might even open the door to Ho to come through as well. That was a little bit dicey at turn one, a little bit choppy between the two. The switch position does go in favour of Osaki, and it does seem like Sky Leia is going to keep at bay the couple behind Moreno and Ho as well. Speaking of position switches that we missed, by the way, up at the top end of the field, we have seen on the timesheets that the Aston Martin of Jake Baldwin has got through on Andika Ramalana, and this here will be that move. Andika Ramalana in that Ferrari, and of course the Aston Martin that we're focused on is Jake Baldwin. I'm going to say from this position, probably going to be a mistake from Andika Ramalana down at turn one in these tricky wet conditions. If you drop two wheels on the left hand side of shot where the curbing is, you're going to go straight on, and not quite a position change there. So Jake Baldwin was just waiting for a mistake, it seems.
Yeah, the stake is a very technical section of corners that comes up next, where you've got to make sure that you hit every single apex and follow the car through, otherwise you will lose far too much time. And Baldwin, as you say, kept to watching brief in the early starts of the race, found an opportunity that we've not quite seen yet on Andika Ramalana and pounced when that opportunity was presented. So great stuff from Jake Baldwin. The Aston Martin now up in a third position. Ramalana will not be too distressed at this stage in proceedings with P4. He knows that he's got his teammate Dylan Tan up there in second position. He's still very much in the conversation for a podium finish, and more importantly for Andika Ramalana securing that second position in the championship standings. Now, Yugo Osaka, the man that we're looking at now, let's talk about him for a moment. We've seen plenty of aggression. In fact, let's not talk about him for a moment. Let's look at what happened here. So this is Ramalana in the second car here, the second of the Ferraris, third position, trying to find a way past his teammate, trying to put him under a little bit of pressure. Now, this is a long swooping left-hander. You've got to keep the car to the inside, then lining up in a nice straight line for the break into the first of the two right-handers. He gets a squiggle on all corner exit. That runs him very deep into the second of the two corners. He has to take to the escape road, manages to stay on the racetrack, give or take, but Jake gets the perfect open door opportunity, and Baldwin into P3.
Yeah, that's the bit that we were expecting to see at some point. So Jake Baldwin up into third position. You can see on your screen contact between 732 and 18. The 18 being Pratima, who's received a drive-through penalty for contact. So yet another penalty to be added to the list, and one more that we'll see. I'm sure we're not done with penalties yet, but we are under 5 minutes now away from the pit window opening. So we're going to see this get very, very busy, get very, very choppy indeed, with drivers diving down pit lane to try and march their way up the order, figuring out their own strategies and trying to find a way past it, even if it isn't on the racetrack itself. From the start of the race, when Lawrenson was under a lot of pressure, the straight line speed of the Porsche was a little bit lower than the Ferrari anyway. That we did see in full effect running down into turn one. I think now that 20 minutes into the race, things have settled out between these two, and the gap is sort of stabilising around about half a second, meaning that for Dylan Tanquilon, there's no real opportunity to get through. There's no door that's opened for him to storm his way past. So this might need to be done through the pit lane sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see Dylan Tan now really pushing that Ferrari hard. So that suggests that he's interested in closing the gap down as much as possible on Andrew Lawrenson, ready to make that all-important pit stop. The window's not open yet. It will be in a few minutes' time. But Dylan Tan, he had a lot of pace, didn't he, at the start of the race? The Andrew Lawrenson-driven Porsche ahead did not look comfortable in the opening few laps or opening few moments of this event. But that has settled down a little bit now as we've seen an incident on lap 1 involving cars 732, 204, 3 and 939. A 5-second time penalty to 732 and 939. And that, of course, is 732 is Ali Karundin and 939 is Yatlam Law. So time penalties will be applied to the end of their race overall finishing time or at the pit stop. So we'll find out how that one transpires in the fullness of time. But this is the important fight, isn't it now? You see, oh, there we go, Takuma running slowly further down the order. Obviously made a mistake, carrying damage.
Yeah, I think there might have been contact with the car that's presently on screen, the 72. I was told it might have been with some, maybe the 16 or something in that vein, but either way, the 72 has been dropped down the order on the exit spoon. I mean, it's very easy, whether it's through contact or just a solo error. Either way, very easy to do through there. It's kind of one of those sections of racetrack where you're always thinking, yeah, I can get on the power now, get on the power now. You've really got to be patient through spoon because the track drops away so much. It's a lot steeper than it looks, and you can get on it too early and spin around or just make contact. I mean, we've seen that already in the day. Speaking of some moves, as it does seem like Sky Lay doesn't really have the pace that I was expecting. 2 top 5s in the last 2 races, but looking like points are going to evade Lay here today because Sekian Ho is looking to grab another position off of Sky Lay. He just can't keep up with the 2 Hondas ahead.
Yeah, the Lamborghini is a very difficult drive car at the best of times, and especially in wet conditions like we have here at the Suzuka International Circuit. It is incredibly difficult to keep hold of that machine, and Sek Yin Ho is very much on a charge at this moment in time. The Aston Martin seems to be revelling in the wet weather. It's all over the rear of Sky Lane. No doing so far coming up into the 130R. A very, very quick, even in wet conditions, left-hander that we're about to approach now. There'll be limited visibility, much braver on corner entry. The car sticking to the racing line. Much harder is the Aston Martin. That doesn't give him enough of a run into the chicane, but he'll be wanting to be nice and clean now. Use the curbs to his advantage. Try and get the launch off of the corner, but in Sky Lay's advantage, the Lamborghini is good in a straight line and good off of the corners, and that will make overtaking around this track so incredibly difficult for the Aston, won't it?
Yeah, I won a race here in wet conditions a few years ago, and the driver that I was up against was one of the part of a sister team. So we were discussing strategy and setup around here. Now, obviously, it's a fairly high downforce circuit at the best time because of the dry, the corners, the high speed, etc. But when it went to wet, I made a move onto a lower downforce setup, which sounds bizarre for wet weather conditions. As Andika Ramalana being told, Andika Ramalana, there he is at the back of the shot. Andika Ramalana was backwards going through Degna 1, returns at Degna 2. Andika Ramalana was halfway round, somehow manages to keep it somewhere on the racetrack, kind of, and back underway in 4th position. But yeah, I was saying, lower downforce around here in wet conditions actually might be slightly beneficial, more so in the sense that you can only really pass here at the best times on that start-finish straight, running down into turn 1. And so if that's the case, well, you might as well make your car really, really quick at that point. Whilst, yes, it's difficult to drive everywhere else, if you can keep it on the racetrack, it is almost impossible to pass if you have a car like that.
So don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Ho, almost impossible to pass is a phrase that these drivers do not understand, right. So they will be giving it their all. As meanwhile, the pit window is now open. You can see it in the top of your screen in centre. Pit window, 9 minutes and 27 seconds left on that clock. Drivers must serve a pit stop. You'll know when they've been down pit lane, as the little yellow icon next to their number will turn green to say that they have served their mandatory pit stop. Our race leaders decide not to bother jumping down pit lane straight away, so they're holding out a little bit longer. longer. But Andika Ramanalana, we didn't see the whole incident, but that's got to be the save of the season. He didn't even lose a position. You don't have a small accident at Dayne, meanwhile someone running a little bit wide further down the lap. So great stuff from Ramanalana that he's still very much in this battle.
Yeah, it's actually not, in wet weather, it's not really an incident that we see too much where they go sliding across the inside. I'm going to assume Andika Ramanalana has run too wide going through Dayne 1, or maybe just clipped the curb too much. Either way, has either run too far wide or clipped that curb and has gone slightly sideways, and it's just picked up enough grip to go essentially straight forwards from an angle, and that's cut across the grass on the inside and rejoined after Dayne 2 coming sideways across the track. So obviously how that one works, because otherwise the only other alternative is to cut across the entire bit, which I don't think he's done. The reason why it's a bit bizarre is normally in wet weather conditions, if you've done either of those two things, you end up going straight on from where you are, which is across the gravel trap and into the barrier. He's actually very, very lucky to get away and that the car went to the right and not in a straight line or to the left. He's very, very lucky indeed. But clearly, a bit of good car control, a bit of good luck and good fortune, and Andika Ramanalana is plenty talented enough to hang on to that one as more penalties come in.
Yep, and luck is part of the battle of being a racing driver. Luck is what goes a long way to giving you the big results. I remember, was it Colin Chapman once said, give me a lucky racing driver over a fast racing driver any day of the week. And Andika Ramanalana, fortunate in that one, but also very, very fast indeed. So his fight for second in the championship continues, fourth on the track at this moment in time. Meanwhile, a few drivers have started to go down pit road. The 726 in 23rd position is the highest ranking of our drivers who have stopped so far. Pak Ho Wong in the Z Challenger racing machine that we're looking at on screen now. So let us see if an early or a late stop is the strategy of choice by our race leaders. Mitch Hobbs runs very deep indeed. That puts him now under pressure from Taruma, side by side, making a little bit of contact into the chicane. Hobbs now tries to close the door again. Taruma, given nowhere left to go, has to spin the car around. A very good job actually to get it facing in the right direction quickly, but that was a little bit too aggressive. Too many cars and too little space, and unfortunately Taruma is the one that pays the biggest price.
Yeah, you've got to give room in the dry, but certainly so in the wet. The thing is, if, like I said, in the dry, you make a little bit of contact, you go for a spin. Yeah, fair enough, but you might be able to keep going. In these conditions, you make a little bit of contact and you're gone. Let's take a look. A little bit too much curb. The car's already started pitching, and then clips the gravel on the left and then slides across. Again, that is incredibly lucky because it's so easy to then ping off to the left-hand side and go over that gravel. That was a good save not to overcorrect it and just keep the car, like I say, as near as makes no difference, as close to the racetrack as possible, considering the mistake. That'll be a wake-up call and probably an enormous hit on confidence, which is definitely a currency worth having in difficult conditions like this. But to be fair, all he needs to do to hang on to second in the championship, as far as I'm aware, is hang on to the top 5, because if Dylan Tan, who's 15 points behind in the championship, Dylan Tan would get it if he won the race, and then Andika Ramanalana was sat in 5th place. So realistically, he needs to finish 4th. Let's go with that. He's currently running in 4th, so it's okay at the moment.
Yeah, but you try and tell a racing driver that just stay where you are and you're fine. You'll have a very short response to that one. So I'm sure Ramanalana still very much fancies his chances of rounding out this season on the bottom step of the podium at the very, very least. And as you say, I was incredibly fortunate. A bit front-wheel drive touring car-esque was that mistake, but never mind. He's put that one very quickly to bed, has Andika Ramanalana, and now he needs to go about the business of finding 3.5 seconds to get himself back in contention with Jake Baldwin ahead. That is Andika Ramanalana that you're seeing on screen now. Does not look in any way, shape or form phased by that bit of drama that befell him a few laps ago, and still in a quite strong position as Fadley Ratchmat now jumps down pit lane. 9th position, the first of our race leaders to take their mandatory pit stop.
Again, I'll say I'm genuinely surprised it's taken this long into the race. Did see a few of the drivers outside of the top 10 take an early pit stop in the first couple of laps in this pit sequence. But whilst this lap is quite long, you don't actually get that many opportunities inside the pit window as we look backwards from Andrew Lawrenson to Dylan Tan, Key Long, And there he is, you can see, just completely focused, using the VR, so able to check mirrors at all times. He'll know exactly where that Ferrari is, sat behind, leading the races. No way through at the moment. The opportunities just haven't been there outside of the first couple of laps. And whilst Lawrenson was using all the experience to just keep calm, drive the racing line. I mean, the fastest way around the track is driving the racing line. So if you keep doing that over and over again, then the Ferrari's going to find a hard way to get through. But as you were saying, to be honest, a lot of the drivers, they like the idea of hearing, no, it's impossible to pass, so that then they can look like an absolute hero when they make it stick.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of opportunities if you're willing and brave enough, I am sure. But Lawrenson doing good work so far in the race lead. Now, he's in that difficult position where he is going to be, of course, as the race leader, as the first man on the racetrack, to decide when he's going to come down pit lane. Now, do you, as Dylan Tan, follow my leader and stop when he stops, or do you do something a little bit different and see if that can try and wrestle away an opportunity? That are questions that we are yet to find out the answer to. We've only got a couple of opportunities. Meanwhile, 5-second time penalty for car number 22 for an unsafe rejoin, car number 22 being Isaac Norman in the Odyssey Racing Esports Lamborghini. So Norman having a difficult time of it, down in 24th position at the moment. And here we are, Andrew Lawrenson down pit lane. Dylan Tan continues on the racetrack, and Jake Baldwin in third position comes down pit lane as well. So let's see how fast their virtual mechanics can get those cars turned around, and let's see if this is Dylan Tan's best opportunity for taking away that race lead.
Yeah, for Lawrenson now the eye will be whether he could actually get out of the pit lane and not be in traffic, because that'll be the big thing. If he departs pit lane in traffic, then it's as near as makes no difference sorted, and Dylan Tanky Long will take the lead here. But the pressure, I would actually say, I mean, it's on both of them, but it's more so on Dylan Tanky Long right now, that he needs to put in the absolute dynamite lap time here. There is no traffic whatsoever for Andrew Lawrenson nor for Jake Baldwin. These two can just get out onto the track and get this done right now. But I mean, interesting to go for a different strategy. I would have actually answered your question with saying they probably should have pitted at the same time. Alas, that is not the case. They've pitted at different times, which means we might see this happen off the racetrack. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's worked out fantastically well for Andrew Lawrenson. There's no mistakes on pit lane, a relatively fast stop, and he's come out, as you say, in totally free air. So that's really worked out well for the Porsche driver. Same for Jake Baldwin as well, a few seconds in arrears. Plenty of clean air for these two now. So Dylan Tanky Long is in a race for race lead, but in worst case scenario may even lose second position to Jake Baldwin if Baldwin can put in a fast out lap now. This is 1 minute and 13 seconds left on the clock. So realistically speaking, Dylan Tan has to jump down pit lane on this lap. We will keep our eye on the race leader. We will keep our eye on Andrew Lawrenson up to, at the very least, second. For his benefit, he'll be hoping it's first. And this is Lewis, when strategy plays massive amounts of influence on this race, and we're about to see this all unfold as it happens.
Wow, diving into the pit lane, there is Dylan Tan. Going around the racetrack now, coming out of Spoon Corner is Andrew Lawrenson. This is going to be fairly close. I mean, I will say, I think that Jake Baldwin has actually closed up ever so slightly to Andrew Lawrenson, which means that if Dylan Tan has lost time here, he's actually going to lose out quite a bit, including to Jake Baldwin. Let's see, into the pit lane, comes to a stop. This will be quite a quick pit stop, I do believe, only going to put in a few litres into the car. And there we go, it is already underway and already departing pit lane. I don't know which way it's going to be. I think Dylan Tan might well just get it, but it's so painfully slow at pit lane.
Yeah, that is such a frustrating feeling. He'll hit the pit lane speed limiter, his first available opportunity, gets the car up to speed for the drag race down into T1. There it is, Andrew Lawrenson around the outside on the brakes. Lawrenson retakes the race lead. Dylan Tan rolled the dice for a gamble. It did not pay off, as you were first and second position, but now in third place. Have a look at that Aston Martin just at the back of his shot there. That is Jake Baldwin. He has gone from a few seconds in arrears to right on the tail of these two. First, second and third, separated by absolutely nothing. Game on, 24 minutes 30 seconds left on the clock. Lewis McGlade, we have got ourselves a motor race.
Yeah, it is Porsche, Ferrari, Aston Martin 1, 2 and 3, and that is how we love our GT racing, having that beautiful difference, seeing different cars battling it out. I mean, the top 10 has got plenty of different cars in force of McLarens, Mercedes and Bentleys up there as well. And then, of course, these top three, a little bit too deep, though, from Jake Baldwin. That's going to cost him a decent amount of time that he'd worked up through that pit lane sequence. Certainly not done yet with 24 minutes left on the clock as they run around the hairpin. But the top two just pulling a bit more of a gap on Jake Baldwin, and will need to do the work once more.
Yeah, that's a real shame. Baldwin pulled a master stroke during the pit stop sequence. Everything fell very nicely indeed for the Aston Martin driver, but he's given up a little bit of lap time. That is a shame. He's got some work to do, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. The smart play in these conditions, if you're Jake Baldwin in third position, is give the front two leaders a little bit of breathing room. Let them squabble amongst themselves and start holding each other up, and that could potentially open the door for opportunities for you. As we're looking now, Philippa Bakida, 8th position, having a very strong race indeed. Thank you very much, Philippa, the female, the only female driver in the field today. We've had Mia Rose at various stages in this competition as well, but Philippa is very much representing the female contingent of sim racers in the GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series, doing great work in 8th position in that number 326 McLaren. Nigel Chua just ahead in the AMG Mercedes, so she's got some opportunities to start closing down and potentially getting herself inside that top 6, that top 5 position. And just another quick update as well, Dika Ramamalana, despite his dramas and his excitement, has come out in 4th position. So Ramamalana survives the pit stop phase, but Terry Rayton fancies his chances of having a little sniff around that Ferrari at some stage before the checkered flag waves.
Yeah, this is quite a tight little grouping here, of course. Masoom on debut with Chuao and Bakida directly behind. Kinglong Lee as well, close. Fadley Rackmat's not that far away, neither with Wang, all involved in this train. And of course, points go down to 10th, so someone is leaving here without points. Philippa Bakida started from 8th position, is currently running in 8th, but I get the feeling that, at least from what we're seeing right now, this McLaren is a bit faster than the 8th position it currently holds, and I get the feeling there is going to be a pass on Joao quite soon.
Yeah, Bakida very much on her tippy toes now. The car looks much more comfortable in these conditions. It's getting very, very dark here in Suzuka now. The lights are ever more important on these GT3 cars, and Bakida is using every bit of skill and experience to her advantage to try and find a way past that yellow AMG Mercedes. Going defensive is Chihuahua into the hairpin. That will compromise him on corner exit. That will give Bakida some confidence that she knows that she has got the driver ahead, rattled a little bit at this stage, covering fresh air. That is exactly what you don't want to be doing as a leading car, and as the attacker, that is exactly what you want to see happen. Make the car in front, worry about what you're doing behind, and then strike when the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You want that car to be covering clean air. You want them to be defending from essentially nothing, because that's when they're likely to make a mistake and overdo it, because they're watching too much what's happening behind and not enough what's happening ahead. You see it time and time again. It's why the best drivers don't tend to be looking that much in their mirrors. They tend to be focusing more as to what's happening ahead, and if they're going to go for a move, well, you'll probably know about it by the sense that they'll knock you out. Coming down the inside. At the moment, though, at the front, as the rain continues to come down here at Suzuka, 21 minutes left to go. Lawrenson holding the lead, half a second clear of Dylan Tan, and Jake Baldwin is closing in once again. It was out to over a second, to about 1.2, 1.3 seconds. It's now coming down and might well dip under a second this lap. That Aston Martin is looking plenty fast enough to keep up with the lead, and I think we might well return to our three-way fight in the final third of this race and this season.
I've got to say, Lewis, I am massively impressed with Andrew Lawrenson for Laundry House. Seemingly not putting a wheel wrong, soaking up all the pressure. He's had the pressure of getting into T1 at the start, nice and clean. The pressure of the pit stop window and being on a different strategy to the car that you're immediately racing. And then, of course, he's had Dylan Tan separated by absolutely nothing for the entirety of this race in the worst conditions you can imagine, and seemingly he's just going about his business, making no mistakes, doing nothing that's overly dramatic and different to what he would normally do, and the reward so far has been what feels like a comfortable race lead, even though the gap is only very, very small between the two of them.
Yeah, like I say, Lawrenson's been doing beautifully right now, and it's kind of one of those things where you just react really well to pressure. Some drivers do, some drivers don't. I've seen time and time again plenty of drivers that do excellently in practice and then just can't put it together in qualifying or the race. I mean, we've seen that loads of times. Some drivers that are terrible in practice. There was someone off in the background. I think that might well have been the McLaren of Nabiel. I think might have been the one that went into the barrier in the background. Certainly is. And there we go for the JMX Juniors off on the escape road. And that's what I was kind of expecting to see from Andika Ramalana earlier in the race, was that exact move.
And I do believe as well Shirakawa also went for a little bit of a slide into the hairpin too, so a couple of cars separated by a couple of corners having some drama, and Dafa Nabiel went to go see the spectators, decided he didn't like the view and got back into the racing action. Meanwhile, Dylan Tan now second position under pressure from Jake Baldwin. Baldwin has closed that gap down from 1.2 seconds to absolutely nothing, showed his nose around the outside. Tan had him covered, but now Dylan Tan, Key Long in second place in the Legion of Racers. 144 Ferrari has his work cut out. We see Jake Baldwin, we know he's fast. Now, can he overtake? Can he find a way past? Dylan Tan will be doing everything he can to stop him, but Baldwin is a man on a mission.
I think that might have been a mistake from Dylan Tan. Key Long going through the Casio triangle, dropped back a little bit from Lawrenson as well, go side by side, on board on the left hand side, looking backwards from Dylan Tan, right hand side looking forward from Jake Baldwin. You can see as well the light blue of Laundry House's Porsche that Lawrenson is driving at the moment and hanging on. The gap went out to about 1.2 seconds. I think that's already back under a second, as it's the chopping and changing in this group that's happening constantly. I'd say that Ferrari of Dylan Tan is the fastest of the three, but it's just not able to find a way past that Porsche, and it's not fast in the right positions of this racetrack. And you know, when it is a little bit faster on the straight than that Porsche, it's just covered off effortlessly by Lawrenson, who's just soaking up all the pressure on one of the wettest days of the season. And to be perfectly honest, I find that very, very hard to beat. When a driver's driving like that and they're not putting a foot wrong, they're knowing exactly where to cover it off. Yeah, I'm not sure where you'd find your pass. I think it's got to be through a mistake. It's just, do you have to force that mistake, or do you just kind of let it happen? Let them get involved in the moment.
And I think that's obviously the kind of decision-making process these drivers have to go through. You always want to move forward. You always want to make an overtake, but you've also got to be intelligent enough sometimes, and this is not a popular opinion, to say, you know what, that guy that I'm trying to pass, he's got me covered, and there's no safe way to do this, so I hate to say it, but maybe I've just got to concentrate on holding my position. And Andrew Lawrenson is doing everything he can to make those thoughts become ever more important for Dylan Tan in second place. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Kin Long Lee in ninth position. The number 969 machine still got Philippa Bakida ahead of him. Philippa Bakida in turn has Nigel Chua just ahead of her. Chua running a little bit deep into T2 there. We saw him a little bit too wide on the entrance to the corner, but fortunately managed to keep the car on the racetrack. It's oh so easy to run out onto the AstroTurf, and before you know it, oh, there we go. That is an Aston Martin facing the wrong direction. That is Mitch Hobbs again in drama. Comes back onto the racetrack. Hobbs does contact with Madison. Contact as well with another of the Aston Martin. Sean Madison, nowhere to go. Everybody tries to weave their way through the traffic as well, but that all started with a mistake for Mitch Hobbs, and it turned into a disaster for those following.
Yeah, just carnage there, and I'm sure Race Control will be taking a swift look at that. By the way, do you want to add a little bit more spice into the battle for the race lead? That is actually the battle for third in the championship as well. If Lawrenson wins this race, there is 7 points between the two of them. As far as my points sheet says. So if Lawrenson is to win this race, 25 plays 18, that's 7 points, but on count back to a race victory, then Lawrenson would be grabbing third in the championship. So Dylan Tan, if he wants that third, I mean, small victories and all that, got to make that move.
So when I said earlier on that sometimes you just have to accept that car's faster than you.
No way.
Yeah, that, take it off the wall, remove the pin, screw it up and throw it in the dustbin, because I will bet anything and everything that I own that is not a thought that goes through Dylan Tan's head. What's going through Dylan Tan's head is Porsche, very attractive car. Laundry House livery, very attractive livery. Fed up of seeing it, go away. Let's have a look at you in my mirror. What can I do about Andrew Lawrenson? Meanwhile, Philippa Bakida is starting to get a little defensive from Kinlong Lee behind. For Bakida, starting to drop back now from the back of Nigel Chua. So that McLaren yo-yoing in performance now is falling into the clutches of the Mercedes behind. So Bakida needs to start to up her defensive game while trying to stay in contact with the car ahead. And you're Dylan Tan, Lewis McGlade, ahead's Andrew Lawrenson. Do you just get to the point at the end of the race where you throw it down the inside and hope you can get away without a penalty? Because you might as well. His second place is no good to you.
Right now, it just needs to be, to be honest, just needs to be closer. 7/10 a second isn't really close enough. You're not applying as much pressure from that point. I know it's obviously easy to say, but if you are faster than the car ahead, then just stay behind, like as close as possible, because that's when a mistake happens. When they start getting more comfortable towards the end of the race, thinking, yes, this win's definitely mine, boom, that's when you make your dive. Right now, it doesn't seem as if Dylan Tan has any opportunity to do so. If you're getting them to defend, if you're getting them to do something, they're offline. That's when mistakes happen. So Dylan Tan needs to be closer. We're back, though, to 3 cars for the race lead in the final 13 minutes. Lawrenson, Dylan Tan and Jake Baldwin all very, very close. If these lot all battle really, really hard, don't rule out Andika Ramanolana, who's only 3 seconds back off the rear of Jake Baldwin, could well be back a part of this battle as well. And then, hey, we might see 4 for the race lead over the final few laps of this race. I think that would be a very fitting way to end the season.
Yeah, absolutely sensational stuff. And just to throw another curveball into the mix, there you see the BMW. That is lapped traffic. So these 3 fighting for position are about to come upon a slower car. They'll hope to clear the BMW as early and as quickly as possible. But here at Suzuka, there are certain parts of the racetrack, including this part that they're about to come to, into T1 and through the stake round Dunlop and into Dayne, where overtaking is so difficult. Being involved in backmarker traffic is absolutely not what you need, and that will be acutely obvious to Andrew Lawrenson. He sees the BMW, he knows he's going to catch it at absolutely the wrong place, and Dylan Tan now has potentially the best opportunity in the last few laps to find a way to apply some pressure on the leading Laundry House car. He is closer, lap after lap, corner after corner. Dylan Tan, half a second between the two of them, nothing between them, and this is game on with 11 minutes and 40 seconds left to go. Fadley Rajmat now in the top 10 in the JMX Phantom Bentley Continental. So Rajmat doing a great job, Wong in 11th place just behind as well. And this, Lewis McGlade, is Andrew Lawrenson's view from on board.
Yeah, you can see the lights in the mirror, just waiting there, waiting for an opportunity to pounce. We'll say that Dylan Tan was aggressive there through turn 1, where we saw him. There was a little bit of a snap of oversteer, nothing too major, but it shows that he is pushing that car as hard as he possibly can. You can see a lot of the wheel work that Andrew Lawrenson is having to put in now, as we'll have to clear some of the back marking, some of the lap traffic that we're approaching as we ride on board with Andrew Lawrenson. Needs to hop out of the way ASAP, otherwise it's going to really concertina this battle more so than it needs to be. And right now this is about as high pressure as you can deal with. The entire race, the entire hour's worth of work, plus everything in qualifying, plus every bit of practice, is all about this moment right here and right now. In the next 10.5 minutes, well, I don't think these guys are going to breathe at all.
Absolutely not. Great to see the BMW respectfully getting out of the way of this lead battle. Good for the drivers, disappointing for us as commentators, as we would have liked a little bit of a variable to bring Rama Milana into this fight as well. But while these are all separated by absolutely nothing, Rama Milana has closed the gap to the top 3 down to 2.6 seconds, so nearly a second. And Dika Rama Milana over the last few minutes has taken out a first, second and third position on the racetrack. Dylan Tan all the way to the rear of Andrew Lawrenson's Porsche now, as he quickly just rubs his hand and gets a little bit of feeling back, holding onto that steering wheel tight, trying to absorb all the pressure, make no mistakes. Look how hard he's working on the steering wheel. You'll see him now just squabbling left and right, trying to find the grip, trying to keep the car nicely balanced through the wet conditions. You don't want to let the slide get too out of control, because that will lose momentum, that will lose time. Through this snake section of corners now, you've got to be nice and balanced, keep the car steady, make sure you hit your apexes, don't carry too much speed into the corner, don't carry too much speed out of the corner as well. You make a mistake in one section as Lawrenson gets sideways. Great catch for the Porsche driver. However, as we were riding on board, Andrew Lawrenson, a little bit greedy on the loud pedal, does fantastic work, Lewis, to keep the car going. That was heart in mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, watch his line going through the first signal there. He ticked it a little bit right and then straightened it up because the rotation of the car from the rear is enough to take it through the corner. Then just gave it a little bit more just to get it through the next part. Then recatched it really, really nicely. Great hand control here from Andrew Lawrenson. This is perfect stuff. Again, very, very tricky conditions. You can see there at the rear of shot just coming through the hairpin. That was Andika Ramamolana. This group is getting closer and closer and closer over the final 9 minutes of this race. There will not be many more laps left here and now. Hobbs receives a 10-second time penalty for failure to hold brakes in that instant that we caught coming out of turn 1. So that's being dished out there as we return back to Kin Long Lee with Bakida and Chihuahua just ahead, but all starting to split up in this group. Does seem like Badley Rackmat might be able to keep Wong at bay and hold on to the final points paying position of the season, and looks quite good for that at the moment, but this can change well, to be honest, in the snap of the fingers. If you take too much speed through a corner, then this might be the battle for the final few positions inside the points, rather than that focus on 10th place and the battle for the final point, which is you want to be inside the points. It's so painful when you finish 11th. If you're just one position outside, it's just like, oh god, that's hard.
Yeah, it really is. It's so close, you get so far. If you're going to be 11th, you might as well be 40th, because each of them pays exactly the same reward, and that is absolutely nothing. As we're looking now, we're on board with Dylan Town once again. This is the snake section of corners that we were on last time. Andrew Lawrenson, remember, got a big snap of oversteer last time round. Now he's been a little bit more cautious in the Porsche. The Ferrari, the Legion of Racers machine, seems to have a better change of direction. He's more confident, more sure-footed in these wet conditions, but at this section of racetrack, that is absolutely useless in terms of overtaking, because there is no way to get two cars side by side with a pace differential between the two of them. So Lawrenson is safe for now as we come through in a Degner 1. Use all the curve, run wide. Degner 2, got to be cautious not to run the car deep and then out wide onto the gravel track, which he does not. And Lawrenson's doing everything, isn't he? Absolutely everything he needs to do. He's been cautious where he needs to be cautious. The Porsche's wide where there is an opportunity to allow the Ferrari past it. It really is. I can't say this enough. We've seen in this season, especially from Dayne Warren, dominated, incredible performances, but to me this is just as impressive from Andrew Lawrenson. This is his best result of the year by far, should he cross the finish line, and he's just been faultless.
Yeah, Lawrenson's not had a podium this season, with 2 fourth place finishes in round 2 and 3. I will say right now, the way he's driving, I mean, we were riding on board there with Dylan Tan. You can see the differential between these two cars, that Lawrenson is using a lot more of the racetrack. Now that's normally, this guy's pushing so much harder than the other, and it's more so that he looks much more comfortable. I mean, even after that moment a couple of laps ago, going through the S's, going through the snake section, he was still using a lot of curb on the next go through, which just shows that that's fairly normal. He's comfortable with the car. The Porsche is a hard car to drive at the best of times. It's very, very tricky on the rear end. It does like to snap. I was chatting very, very lightly with some of the Coanda guys and seeing what Josh Rogers and stuff were putting out onto social media after driving the Porsche in the European side of things, and saying that it's a difficult car to drive on the limit, but it has plenty of pace in it. And if you can get used to it sort of diving around the limit, then if it snaps a little bit more, well, you're already used to catching it quite a bit. So you're ready for it to do so, which means that in conditions like this, we know Porsches love wet stuff. In conditions like this, you've already been used to catching it all the time. So this is just natural. This is part of your normal driving scenario, which other drivers aren't used to. And for Andrew Lawrenson, this has been absolutely superb and bulletproof so far. Just needs to hang out for 5 more, what we would classify as short, and what they would classify as an eternity, just 5 minutes.
Well, we need to be very careful here, Lewis, because this smells suspiciously like commentator's curse.
It does.
So we shall not praise Andrew Lawrenson too greatly for the next 4 and a bit minutes as he comes round the hairpin. Now another BMW he needs to dispatch. Lap traffic ahead in a couple of laps time. So 4 minutes 36 left on the clock. 7:04 p.m. in-game time. It's getting dark here at Suzuka. The rain continues to fall. The conditions are treacherous, as treacherous can be. Now Isaac Norman, penalty was acquired by this car earlier in the race for the Lamborghini. Number 22, 32nd position. Dayne just ahead. So Isaac Norman having a difficult time for Odyssey Racing Esports in the number 22. He'll look to try and make one final overtake of the season, and this is the best opportunity possible. Coming into the Casio Triangle round the outside, no room there. Will look to cut back and get a good run down the start finish straight to attack again into T1.
Yeah, good effort. I mean, this is the thing is that everywhere up the order we're going to see moves, and Isaac Norman is just adding to that list now as Dayne was way too far wide, departing the final 19th and final corner, has opened the door for the Lamborghini to potentially come through, but that Lexus is pretty potent on the start finish straight. Not really going to fight that one. Isaac Norman to the inside, doesn't run wide and grabs that position running through turn number 1, and so that is up inside the top 30 as we return to our race leaders. And you can see that ahead there was a little bit of traffic, and based on where we were, there's still a fair amount of traffic left on the horizon. Is this going to play its part in this battle? And let's be honest, right now, if you're Lawrenson, every time you come across a lap, someone a lap down, some of the back markers, you're thinking, please be kind to me, please be kind to me, because you don't need that distraction, as that was Dylan Tan running quite wide and alleviating some of the pressure. That's a big move, and now Lawrenson's got what looks to be well over a second.
Yeah, that was critical for Andrew Lawrenson. The BMW incredibly generous to get out of the way, which worked wonderful for the Porsche, but less so for the chasing Ferrari behind. So now, thanks to traffic, Andrew Lawrenson has bought himself an almost 1.5, nearly 2-second advantage, and I reckon that is pretty much for race lead, at least, unless there's a mistake. Game over, and now Jake Baldwin starting to buy into this one. So Baldwin is looking to pounce on the disappointment of Dylan Tan ahead, and Andika Ramanalana continues his charge in 4th position. So Ramanalana now is just about within touching distance of these two, and Jake Baldwin fancies a 2nd position for his best result of the year in only his 2nd race in the Asia Esports SRO Championship.
Yeah, in all likelihood, we're going to see at least one Legion of Racers drivers on the podium. It's just kind of dependent on which one. Right now, it's looking very much like it is going to be Dylan Tan. But should Jake Baldwin do something bold, do something aggressive, the door will be open for Andika Ramanalana to sweep through. I mean, should he make a mistake, we're going to see 2 Legion of Racers drivers onto the podium. It's impossible to tell with 1 minute and 40 seconds left on the clock. I believe we're heading on to the last lap of this race.
The last lap of the race, the last lap of the season, and what a season it has been. Dylan Tan has just one more circulation of the 5.807 kilometre 18 turn Suzuka Grand Prix International Circuit to do in order to secure that 2nd position and potentially 3rd in the overall championship standings. Jake Baldwin does not fancy giving him an easy run of it towards the end of this race, and the Aston Martin looking very aggressive indeed. But can Dylan Tan hold on? Can Jake Baldwin find a way past? Will Andika Ramanalana find 1.5 seconds and have an attack as well? Lewis McGlade, it's been a sensational season, and it's been a sensational final race.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff. The 3-way fight that we've had has been brilliant, met with tricky conditions as we arrived here at Suzuka, and it's kind of the expectation that every time we arrive at a circuit like this, we take a step into the unknown, and that is exactly what we've had with the wet weather. Fantastic stuff from all 41 competitors that we've had throughout the day. It was a little bit carnage filled at the start, but all things considered, I mean, the top 3, top 4, with the exception of the mistake from Andika Ramanalana, they've been pretty much bulletproof from start to finish. There hasn't been any major mistake from this, even inside the top 10, and that sort of stuff in races like this is normally, or at least it used to be, unheard of. Now it is the expectation due to the professionalism that these drivers are bringing to the table, and that has been echoed by no one more so than Andrew Lawrenson at the front, coming through Spoon Curve for the final time. with now no Dayne Warren in the championship, it was always going to go to someone. You wanted to be that person, and it does seem as if Andrew Lawrenson is going to be that person.
Yeah, Lawrenson has been inch perfect through every single kilometre of this race. Put the car in difficult conditions on pole position. Led away from the green flag into T1 for a lead he would never relinquish, and did every single thing right. Through the chicane for the final time, through the last turn for the last time this season in the GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series. Everybody put your hands up and give a round of applause to Andrew Lawrenson, our final winner of the season here at the Suzuka International Circuit for Laundry House. Andrew Lawrenson wins the GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series Round 5.
Yeah, superb stuff. Great podium. I mean, a well-deserved victory in Lawrenson, but a well-deserved podium from the top three. Dylan Tant, great stuff. But unfortunately, it does mean that third in the championship, I do believe, at least as my maths, never trust commentators' maths, but if everything's to go on, I think Lawrenson will grab third position in the championship, and unfortunately, Dylan Tant will lose out. Jake Baldwin did absolutely fantastically, and Dika Raul Milana should hang on to second in the championship with that point score as well. So as much as fourth position might not have been what he wanted from the day, it was what was needed, and so you could tick that one off, and that's now all very, very calm indeed.
Yeah, professional job, doing the job needed for himself and his team for second position overall in the championship standing. So our champion, our race winner in rounds 1, 2, 3 and 4 has not been present, but despite that big name, despite VRS Coanda Simsports not taking part in this final race, we have been served up with an absolutely exceptional 60 minutes of racing. Some beautiful performances from many of our drivers up and down the grid in the most challenging and difficult of conditions here at Suzuka. It has rained from beginning to end. The night has fallen on this beautiful Japanese circuit. The night has fallen on this brilliant Asian esports series for another season, and we've had some incredible moments of action, drama and emotion, and most importantly, I think it's fair to say, Lewis, that each and every one of these drivers has done themselves, their region and this championship proud, and put on what has been a fabulous show for all our friends and audience at home watching these broadcasts.
Yeah, it is well known that at least for the most part, when it comes to large-scale esports stuff in the world of sim racing, that our focus is more so in the European area and over in North America. Obviously, there are championships to take part in Australia, in South America, and Africa, and of course over in Asia. They don't normally receive the same level of broadcast and production and world sort of view that we've had here, and it's great. I love it. I love seeing these new names that have put themselves up against some of the biggest names in sim racing and have come out in a way that they've built themselves a name across the world of sim racing, and I'm sure a name that we'll see time and time again in the near future as well. So brilliant stuff. I've enjoyed it from everything we've done so far in the season, and hopefully we'll get some more of these names in the near future.
Oh yes, absolutely. Everybody at home, you should take a note of the drivers competing in this championship, because this will not be the last you hear of them. I am absolutely sure. As we've seen a few highlights from the opening laps of this race 60 minutes ago, and we'll be speaking to our race winner, Andrew Lawrenson, who joins us in the commentary box now. Andrew Lawrenson, race winner, absolutely fantastic performance. Congratulations. Oh, Andrew, I think we've got you on mute there. We'll get in. No noise through. You see, ladies and gentlemen at home, the performance on track was fantastic, but the performance in the interview leaves the first mistake of the day.
I'd prefer to make a mistake here than I would in the race. So,
well done, Andrew. That was sensational. Soaked up all the pressure and more. How does that feel to be the race winner?
A relief, more than anything else. Dylan put brilliant pressure on the entire race. He was, I think it was a 0.2 of a second gap the entire the entire time. The tyres in the Porsche come and go, so it was a different car every sort of 10 or 15 minutes to try and defend with, and coming out of the pits there, it was marginal. But no, it was great. I've got to first up thank the engineering team, Matthew Marsh, at Matthew Marsh HK on Twitter. Hop on there and watch his hashtag GoF1 videos before the F1 broadcast. But yeah, without them, we couldn't have picked the pit stop as it was. But no, very, very happy with the car, happy with the race.
Now, from our point of view, we never saw you put a foot wrong, and it's obviously the most difficult conditions that you could wish for here at Suzuka. How difficult, from a driver's point of view, was it to just keep pounding round and setting the consistent lap times that you did?
Especially in the Porsche, it was difficult, only because the weight comes off the nose so much during the stint as you burn off the fuel. And you end up having a car that wants to understeer at one part of the corner, and then it digs in and bites, and then you've got a bit of oversteer on the exit as well. So I'm glad the broadcast was flattering. If it looked like it was easy, then that's what I want it to look like, but it certainly wasn't inside the car.
And we saw the pit stop strategy that you obviously came in on a different lap to Dylan Tan. Was that always the plan, to leave it that close?
It was a matter of running as long as possible, because if we came in early, it gave Dylan free air. And I think he certainly had the pace on the straights and in certain sectors on certain laps. So if we gave him free air, we thought we'd probably lose it in the stop, because the tyres will get cold on the drive through the pits. So it was just that Matthew on the engineering channel saw that there was a gap for us to fall back into if we stopped then. So I got the box coming into 130R. We grabbed that, and sure enough came out and clean air behind a car that was about to stop. They pulled off, and happily we kept up enough speed during that lap, and I think it gave me slightly warmer tyres when Dylan came out, which helped me defend there.
Yeah, it made for some real fantastic television. And just finally from us, Andrew, this is of course the last race of the season. It's been a great year once again in the Asia Esports Series. So can I just have a little word from yourself about the organisation, the championship, and of course your rivals and teammates?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we couldn't hope for anything more. The organisation, the consistency, the events, and even with the qualification standard, and you get different drivers each week, you'd expect there'd be a different quality of racing. But certainly from our point of view, with Laundry House and all the guys there that have helped us out in the other cars and qualified each week, we've seen the same sort of quality each week, which gives predictability, makes you want to come back, makes you want to sort of get together and make sure we make a concerted effort to attack it again next year. So I know a huge thanks from all of us here at Laundry House to the organisers, to SRO, aka Informatica, everyone at SimGrid as well in the background organising it, and to you guys in the commentary box too. I know we always hop back and rewatch the race afterwards, and it's always entertaining. So thank you again.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Andrew. And that is a performance that you should be justifiably proud of. A brilliant race and a brilliant way to end an exceptional season. Congratulations, Andrew Lawrenson, Laundry House, winners of round 5 here at Suzuka. Brilliant stuff, that, Lewis. Great to hear from Andrew. And what a way to end the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that race had pretty much everything apart from any dry bits, which, to be fair, we can skip that off a race sometimes. The pressure dealt with there, like you were saying, from Dylan Tan, it was very rarely far away from the rear end of Andrew Lawrenson's Porsche. It was a great battle. It really, really was. No, it's not about passing. It's not necessarily about passing. It's about the pressure that was put on, and Lawrenson just dealt with it about as perfectly as you would expect from anyone at the top level of sim racing. So very much a perfect drive, to be perfectly honest. There was no mistake, no real issue, and that, I said, the end of the season is where you see these kind of drives, and bam, there we have not one, not two. We saw 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these up inside the top 10. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, really fantastic stuff. And it just leaves us now to say to everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us on this journey for the GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series. And thank you, of course, to the event organisers, to SRO, SimGrid, AK Esports, Kunos, Simulazione, Pirelli, AWS, Fanatec, and of course the wonderful Assetto Corsa Competizione. From myself, Paul Jeffrey, and from my co-commentator, Lewis McGlade, and to quote the wonderful Arnold Schwarzenegger, blah, we'll be back. Bye-bye.